My name's Dave Barker, and we're going to be fishing on Table Rock Till Lake today. We're going to be fishing pre-spawn bass, and we're going to be using crankbaits. And I like to use Wiggle Wart, so that's what we're going to be fishing with today. And it's a good day. It's an overcast day. The water temperature is about 45, 47 degrees, a little bit cold, but I believe we can catch some. The water on Table Rock Lake is real clear. We probably got a visibility today of 5 to 6 feet, maybe even a little bit more. So we're going to look for some dirtier water if we can find some, but it'll be hard to find unless we run way up one of the rivers or one of the creeks. And we're fishing in the dam area, around near the Table Rock Dam area. And what we'll be going back in some of the secondary feeder creeks, and what we'll be looking for is a chunk rock bank. And usually early like this, the bigger the chunk rock, the better. A little bit later on, the fish will tend to move to the smaller chunk rock or the pea gravel type banks. But my idea is that early the fish, they tend to get off a shad about this time of year a lot, and they go to hunting and feeding on crawfish real heavily. And what I'm looking for, and I'll go back in these creeks, is places where that if I were looking for crawfish, that's the same thing that I'm looking for when I'm bass fishing, because that's what the bass are going to be looking for, is crawfish. So the bigger chunk rock usually is better early than the pea gravel rock. The bait that we're going to be fishing with mostly today is a Wiggle Wart. It's a crankbait. That's one of my favorite crankbaits. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Wiggle Wart or not, but it's just a real popular bait in these highland clear water lakes. Table Rock is a clear water lake, and the water clarity probably today is about 6-7 feet, something like that. And so you have to get a fish around heavy cover if you're going to catch fish on a crankbait in clear water. And this time of year, the fish tend to get off of feeding on shad a little bit, and they get to feeding pretty heavily on crawfish, and that's what we're trying to imitate with this Wiggle Wart, is a crawfish. And the way we have to fish this in this cold water is really slow and easy. The Wiggle Wart has a very slow, wide wobble to it, and as you're pulling it through the water, you'll feel the wobble. And a lot of times the fish, when they bite it, they don't grab the bait and turn their head. They just kind of swim up and overtake it, and they will turn it loose. And if you're not really paying attention and closely watching what's going on, you will miss a lot of your bites. And usually that's a big fish that comes up, and he'll just overtake the bait, and in one motion he'll take it in and turn it loose. And what happens is your bait's going along and you're feeling the wobble, and if you feel it quit wobbling, then it starts wobbling again. That was a big fish had a hold of your bait. And that's a technique that kind of takes a little time to develop, but over the years I've learned I've developed that technique, and it's really worked well for me. Today the water's real cold. It's about 47 degrees today, the water temperature is. I'm really working my bait slow because it's cooled down a little bit. It's cooled down 2 or 3 degrees to what it's been the last about for a week. And today is a nasty day. It's rained on us almost all day, and it's a good day to fish, but so far the fish haven't been biting real good. But I'm slowing my bait way down. I'm using a 5-to-1 reel ratio, and just cranking it very, very, very slow, keeping on the bottom. I don't use a stop and go retrieve, but I try to let my bait stop in place, let it hold in place with my rod for a period of time. That's kind of hard to explain without showing what I'm doing, but I'll pull a line, pull a bait down to the bottom, then hold it in place and move my rod towards the bait and roll up the slack, then move the bait with my rod more than I do with the reel. And that way it kind of gives it a stop and go action, but it's a real slow, and that way I can keep when I move my rod down the line, I can keep in contact with the bait. So a lot of times this time of year the fish bite very subtle, and if you're not paying real close attention, they can bite it and you'll never know you've had a bite. We've caught several fish today, but it's been, when it was raining, we couldn't get any of them on the film, so we're hoping it's kind of stopped now. We hope we'll get 1 or 2 on the film here. And like we've caught our best fish kind of back in the creeks today. The wind is just right. For to fish a Wiggle Wart good, one of the best things to is have colored water and wind. But now in Table Rock where we're fishing today, this water's pretty clear. Right where we're fishing now, I can see down about about 4 foot looks like, and which is not too clear. I've caught fish in a lot clearer water than that fishing here, but sometimes if it's dirtier than that, I believe it's better. And the color I'm using today is a real brown. It's called a brown crawdad, and so that's what I'm trying to do. I think that's one of the things that happen. The water starts warming up a little when it gets up there in the mid-40s, so the crawfish start getting a little bit active. We just noticed we're getting few snowflakes right now. It's here it is, the middle of March, and usually we're thinking spring fishing, pre-spawn, and it's starting to snow on us a little bit. So when I use a Wiggle Wart, I don't hardly ever stop and go retrieve, but I'll pull a Wiggle Wart to me, and then I'll reel the rod back down the line, so that I'm in continuous contact with the bait at all time. I had a bite right there and missed him. But I don't want my bait to float up, but like it does if you completely stop, your bait floats up, and for just an instant, you lose contact with your bait. But as you pull your bait down, as you pull the bait down, and just let the bait set in one spot, and reel your rod right down the line towards the bait, and it's just sitting there. And if a fish touches it, you can feel it. You always got contact with your bait that way. And if you just pull it and stop it, like I'm doing now, then that time till you stop and get back to it, you can have a bite and not feel it because you lose contact with your bait. Yeah, there's one right there. There he is. There's a good one. He ate that real good. About a 2.5 pounder. We were talking a while ago, Todd and I were talking a while ago about the crawfish in this lake. I just read an article the other day about crawfish, was trying to figure out some things about them. And the crawfish in Table Rock, it's in all the White River chain lakes. It's called a long pincer, and it's supposed to be the biggest crawfish in the United States. And I've caught them and measured them from out here, from the tip of the tail to the tip of the pinchers. If you lay them out flat and stretch them out, they'll be 12 inches long. This time of year, these fish are moving a lot because it's real early pre-spawn, but they're already getting in that. There's one right there. Oh, he got off. That one was just like the last one there. He was on there. There he come back and got it. He's there. Oh, that's a little smallmouth. That's good. He's a mean little rascal. Them smallmouth will come back after it lots of times. There, Rod, that's a smallmouth, Table Rock smallmouth. She was on that same kind of gravel we just caught the other one off of, and just bumping the bottom, and he had it, and then he come off, and then he come back and got it. There's smallmouth. If you're fishing where there's a lot of smallmouth, and you think you've had a bite, and even if the fish gets off, don't reel in real quick and redo your cast. Just let it play out, and lots of times they'll come back and get it. And we think that this time of year that the fish get really, just before the spawn, we think these fish in these Clearwater lakes really tend to zero in on the crawfish population. And I don't guess anybody really knows for sure, but it seems like they get off of the shad, feeding on the shad so heavily, and really start feeding heavily on the crawfish. Feels like a pretty good fish. Yeah, he's a dandy. He's a dandy. You can kind of tell those fish are kind of lethargic. That water's cold enough that they're kind of lethargic right now. Here's a black tail. See how his tails were off on the bottom like his. They say that them big fish like that, they wear their tail off because they swim so close to the bottom. One of the things about fishing on these banks like this in this clear water, I think that Wiggle Wart is a bait that comes along and it's coming down the bank and it hits a rock and bounces off, and a fish is sitting here by a rock. and that rock or that wiggle wart bounces over that rock, and it's in his face immediately. It's not just coming along and there it is, and he goes over to it and gets it. It's kind of bouncing off along the bottom. It bounces over one of them rocks. He's positioned there below that rock, and it comes. He just grabs it. It's one of those kind of things. I don't think a fish just bites on impulse or anything like that. I don't think they just eat stuff because it happened to be there. But I think sometimes you get it in their face quick enough that they don't have time to decide not to bite it. If a fish looks at that close, that's why in clear water it's so hard to catch fish on a bait like this. They can see that it's not right. Something about that is not right. And so if you get those chunky rock banks where that bait's hitting the bottom and it keeps the image of the lure kind of camouflaged from what it actually is from the fish. And that's another thought of mine that may not hold any water at all, but it works for me. So it works for me, that's all. It's pretty good. Those fish are really lethargic right now. Nice one. Pretty fish. These fish today are coming out of about 4 to 6 foot of water. Usually I'm setting the boat most of the time in about 10, and then I'm throwing up there in about 2 foot and coming out across that 4 to 6 foot, and that's where I'm getting the bites. I'm surprised they're not catching them right now because there's one right there. That's a nice one. Good one. Good one. Come on, baby, jump there. He's not as big as those others, but he's a good. That's a nice fish. See how nice and healthy he is compared to that other fish we just caught a little bit ago? That fish has never seen a wiggle wart before. That's a new experience for him. About a 2.5 pounder. If you notice that those fish I'm catching, almost every one of them are hooked just barely on that back hook. They're not really taking the bait. They're just kind of coming up, just kind of almost like they're tasting of it. And that's why it's so difficult to feel the bite. If they come up and grab that bait and turn their head, you'll feel a jerk, a bite like that. But when they just come up behind it and just take hold of it, it's almost like it's, best way I know is what I said a while ago, it feels like you got a leaf or a piece of grass or something like that. It's like it kind of goes dead in the water. Instead of feeling that vibration, it just kind of starts gliding in the water and you'll feel a little bit of pressure. He's a dandy. It's one we've been looking for. There's the kind we're looking for. And see, our fish is hooked. He's just barely hooked. That's what I'm talking about. They're not getting the whole bait. They're just coming up behind it and just kind of sucking on the back of it. Also, remember we caught a fish a while ago that the bottom of his tail was wore off. And see, those fish they're not making beds yet or anything, but we believe that they rub their tails like that. When they're swimming around on the bottom, they drag their tail on the bottom. There's heavy fish like this. There's a big old heavy fish. Well, we're wrapping it up here on Table Rock Lake today. We've just had a good day on the lake. We caught several fish. We've done really good. They bit that little wiggle wart today. Done real good on it. It's always fun to catch fish when you're trying to show somebody how to catch fish. And we caught, I don't know, we could caught 12, 15 really nice fish. We could have probably weighed 5 fish that weighed 17 or 18 pounds real easily. And so it's been a good day on Table Rock. It was cold. I don't think the temperature ever got above about 37, 38, 39. And at one time it snowed pretty good. And it rained off and on us all day. So it's been a cold day, but it's been a fun day. We had a good time, and it's always fun to catch fish.